Welcome everyone, Angie Verzeletti here. Today, this is going to be a little bit of a vulnerable share. Today, I'm going to take you through my backstory and the why behind a lot of what I'm working on. So you've heard me talk about Audacity 100 times, and today I want to tell you exactly where it came from, and it's actually not where you think. Today, I want to take you through where I actually started, the period that nearly broke me, the moment everything changed, and why I built my entire brand and business around one word, Audacity. And I'm not telling you this story because it's impressive or anything like that. I'm telling you this because every single thing I teach has come from something that has caused me great pain or great lesson. And I had to learn a lot of stuff, and I had to learn it a really hard way first, because that's how my path was meant to be, and that's what happened. And now I want to take you through what happened so you can understand where I'm at and why I channel everything the way that I do. So where did I actually start, and who was I before I built anything that I'm working on? Before the podcast, before the coaching, before, my really successful career and everything like that. Who was Angie? So let's go back. Let's go back 10 years. So when I was 18, right, I'll paint the picture. Fresh 18, 18th birthday. And, 18 is when you can legally drink in Australia. And I had to spend my 18th birthday court ordered to be sober with a curfew condition. And the reason why was because I had been arrested multiple times for supplying drugs, Schedule I drugs. And I was on bail conditions that I wasn't able to drink. And, how did I even get to that point? We'll go into it, I promise. But, that's how I spent my 18th birthday. And I had court conditions that I couldn't drink. I had curfew, random drug tests, alcohol testing, all of the stuff. But I got, I got arrested for dealing ice particularly. And I think I also had like weed on me at some point as well. And I didn't even smoke weed, so it didn't make sense. But anyway, that was what happened with that. And I had to go to rehab. The rehab was for a good period as well. I was in a short stint in rehab. And, all of that was before I even turned 18, actually. So let's rewind a little bit further so I can paint that picture of how I ended up getting there, right? And I was a bit of a rebellious teen, always had a wandering soul, I would say. And I just wanted freedom, but, being young and naive and stupid, you just kind of like, whatever. So I was a rebellious teen, and, my parents are legends, my family's legends. Like I wasn't coming from a place of like no love or anything like that. I had excess of it. So, but I just had more curiosity and more desire not to be in school and not to do the right thing. So, it was very easy prey for manipulator, and that's exactly who I ended up getting involved with. The bad boy come along, and here's excitable Angie who's like rebelling herself. You mix those two together and recipe for disaster, really. Anyway, so then I met this guy, and he was no good, just no good. That's all I got. Got involved in him, and then from that, we ended up being in a relationship for a couple of years, and I met him when I was 15, and the physical abuse started when I was 15. And, I left him by the time I was 17 when I finally found the courage to do that. But, not before. I endured a heap of stuff from him. We'll just cover that. Won't go too far into it because I don't want to be triggering anyone right now with that story. But I went through a lot of shit from him. And then when we did finally break up after just a whole heap of just turmoil and evilness, and it was horrible. It was such a horrible period in my life. You know, I went through things that like no one should ever have to go through, and you know, really makes me sick on some of the things that people are capable of, and particularly, you know, people who claim that they love you can treat you so poorly. So, you know, I want to advocate that that's not okay. If people are, you know, doing anything that crosses any of your boundaries or anything like that, you really need to pull that shit in check. And if anyone is being manipulative or physically abusive, verbally abusive, like, we don't stand for that stuff. We have Audacity and we get the fuck out of there and we tell them to get lost, right? Anyway, we're going on a tangent with that. So then got mixed up, you know, with him, and then finally had the courage to leave. And I was very spiteful when I was finally able to leave, that I could see how easy it was to make money from dealing drugs and how quick he was stuffing it up. So I was like, well, I'm going to beat you at your own game. It was connected to all of the people. And then I started doing that and I did it quite well, and, you know, got to a point that I was dealing quite substantial amounts of it. And because I was young, dumb, naive, I didn't really care. Didn't do anything productive with it, obviously. But then I ended up, it all come crashing down. You know, I was like, here I was building this fucking empire or whatever. And it all come crashing down. And there I sat, 17 in jail, getting charged with a heap of offenses. And I remember sitting in the cell and the harrowing's not a word, the hollow feeling I had inside was just, ugh, I never want to ever feel that again. It was terrible. Anyway, so then that happened, and then I got, you know, went through the whole court thing, and then had to go to rehab, and then celebrated my 18th birthday sober, which was fine, but I was a bit of a party girl. So, you know, it was a bit lame that, you know, when you finally legally drink, I legally couldn't. So they extended my period for time for me to turn 18. Anyway, so all of that happened. And then I started fresh 18, didn't finish high school, didn't have anything to show for myself. So I was like fresh out in the world, and just a whole heap of shame and guilt and fuckery that I had to rebuild from, you know, going through and facing all of the people from that period of my life who I hurt, my family, friends, people I did wrong by, all of it. It was awful. And it was so easy to want to go back into the lifestyle that I was mixed up in. But, you know, I knew that that wasn't Angie, and I knew that that wasn't me, and I was never going to go down that path again. So I really took a stock check, and I was like, all right, cool. What are we doing? This is where we're going. And then, you know, I learned to tap that curiosity and that hunger for success that I felt, and why I felt like I needed to go into that lifestyle and channel it into something good. And then I went into the business world, and, you know, I started studying and doing some just some certificates to get a bit of a taste. And then I got nominated for some awards, and, you know, then I ended up getting some corporate jobs, and then I went into the corporate world and had a very successful corporate career doing like sales, you know, administration, project coordination, office management kind of stuff. And then I was like, okay, that's, you know, I'm not making the money that I want to be making. So I left and I went over to the west coast of Australia and went into the mining industry. And I did that for good whack of time, and did it quite well as well, you know, like started at the very bottom and kind of worked my way up to like leading teams and working as a business improvement specialist, running like huge projects and things. And it was great. A lot of like diverse roles and a lot of opportunity that come from my mining time, and, you know, coupling it in with my business experience was, you know, really quite fun. I really enjoyed that. And then I ended up getting an injury, which left me basically sat for a year and a half. And I had to sit, I had to think, who was I? What was I doing? You know, I wasn't allowed to work because of my injury, wasn't allowed back on site. The place that I was working wasn't being very supportive in, you know, getting me another role anywhere else, despite me kind of asking for it, because, you know, like I've got a severe type A personality where I need to be doing stuff. So everything kind of was happening. And, I was on this like trajectory in mining that was just going gangbusters. And I was like, yeah, I'm making it here. This is wicked. And then I had this injury and it was like my whole world just got changed to a different direction. And that's exactly what happened, actually. I wasn't allowed to go back, medically not allowed to go back. And, I've still got the injury that I've got to now manage, which is fine, because I've taken it as like a bit of a redirection. So within that period, I've always wanted, and I was working on, writing a book and becoming an author. And I've spoke about that in some of my other videos. And having this injury that, was my foot, I couldn't do anything. It actually like positioned me quite well to sit and write a book. So I ended up writing a manuscript that's now being pulled apart for 2 books, which is pretty exciting. Hardest thing I think I've ever done. Even out of everything else that's happened in my life, I think the book's been the hardest thing, because trying to bring all of that shit back up and write about it in a way that tells the story, doesn't incriminate me anymore, paints the picture and, takes people on their own inner transformation is not an easy thing. But luckily I have good people and a good editor and everything like that. So, I've gone through a bit of stuff, but throughout this period of being injured, I had some moments like pop up that really taught me about, what business is and what it means to have courage and live a life in alignment to like the true you. And I think this injury that I had was that thing that really allowed me to do it. And I have kind of just taken it and run with it. And for me, I chose the word audacity, and I've built everything around audacity because it's about being bold and being daring and, not giving a shit about what anyone else has to say and just leaning into it. And I think that too many people care about what others are thinking and saying and doing, but we shouldn't be, like everyone here on earth is in their own little lane, and just find your lane and make, I always say, like, no one can compete with me because I'm in my own arena. As gorgeous Brene Brown says, like, what arena are you playing in, right? I'm in my own. Like, it's me versus every other thing going on in my life that I need to overcome if I'm going to make it with what I want to do. So, that's kind of how I operate in that sense. But, audacity come to me when it was just like I'd had enough, and it was, the courageous move to actually throw in the towel to mining and just say, hey, you know what, like, that's something that I'm not going to be able to go back to. I'm not getting the support to go back to into it. And I'm just getting pushed to go into this other direction. And then, learning about business. And I went to an Aaron Sansoni event and learn about building empires and building businesses, and being around other entrepreneurs and people who are creating massive impact in the world was just so inspiring to me. And it's always been something that I was working towards, but it took a little bit of, redirection and misalignment to figure it out how to get there. So I've gone through all of that, and it's been really an interesting journey to, like, reflect back on and now start talking about and sharing, because I've learned so much. And, traveling the world solo, I've done all of these really great, courageous things. And, my next thing in life is to help give back to people and help other people find their audacity, because, I've been able to connect with some amazing human beings who have helped me on my journey. So, everything is coming back to that why and that calling in life. And, my personal why in life is making sure that no brain goes to waste. And I do that by helping people find their audacity and go after the life that they want. And, everything's kind of coming under that and from that. And it excites me, because I don't want to have a job, or I don't want to have a life that looks good on paper and it be hollow on the inside. I am a big believer in, you've got to be bold, you've got to take risks, and you've got to be happy within yourself, because if you're not, then, like, who are you being happy for? External validation, all of that, it's not going to make you feel good. It's only going to push you like further and further away from your true self. And I hate the idea of people living a life that they secretly hate, So I've gone through some versions of me, you could say, you know, like some people have called me some horrible things. We won't repeat that, but you know, like some people have said some stuff. I've done some stuff. So I know I can put my hand up and take accountability and be like, that was my part to play in that. Absolutely. You know, I had this version of myself that was this, like way back when, was this girl who didn't know boundaries, didn't know how to have courage, didn't know what it meant to actually live in alignment with herself. And then everything that's transpired throughout that period of my life till now has actually paved the path perfectly for me. And, you know, I love being able to sit here and confidently share what I've just shared, even though, you know, I'm sure that there's going to be things where that's going to impact something, and who knows. But, you know, if I look at it like, yeah, that was a part of my life, I'm not going to shy away from it because people go through stuff. It doesn't define us. And I think that's the whole thing that I strive to prove and help people understand, because, you know, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. But it's how we respond and it's how we choose to push through that really matters. So this is a bit of the baseline of like what I've done, where I've been, and, you know, there's a lot that has happened in between all of that. Let me tell you, I have gone through some stuff. And, you know, more of it will probably come out. It'll come out in my book when I launch that. So, you know, I've written definitely quite a deep memoir about all of the intrinsic details within. And yeah, it's painted me to be this really courageous, audacious woman. And I wouldn't change any of it. You know, if I could go back, I wouldn't change any of it because I love who I am and I want to help people get to the point of loving who they are as well. So, you know, that's kind of the backstory of my life. And that period that, you know, most people don't get to see. So what actually happened, you know, I was in domestic violence and I had a partner that, you know, just to give you a few like details on what happened, you know, he's permanently displaced my jaw. I can't eat really chewy foods. My jaw will like click out of place. It's very annoying. He's left me with some permanent like injuries and things that I have to deal with now. And I just, yeah, it hurts my heart, absolutely. But it's also still been part of a journey and it's part of my story. And like, you know, I've really tapped into the energy with it. So I'm not going to go too far into, you know, the specifics of that, but I was mixed up with some people and, you know, whether it's been people who have been in the criminal empire building underworld or actual business and legitimate business is like few and far between, right? And it was fucked. That's all I've got to say. You know, the period that nearly broke me, you know, there was a night where I really just wanted to end it all, and I nearly did, and I'm fucking so glad that I didn't. Obviously, if I can stand here today, you know, and kind of own that, it's you know, that's something that's just always really like shook me. And so many things that have happened to me have really like left me feeling quite shook and just it hurts, and like it really hurts. But it's also been the thing that I've been able to use as the power to fuel everything and to fuel my audacity, to fuel all the stuff that I'm working on, because I have this inner sense of injustice now from that, because I want to protect everyone else from going through, you know, domestic violence, abuse, manipulation. And I don't only talk about manipulation in a romantic setting. You know, your friends can manipulate you, your boss can manipulate you, your family. People do it. People are assholes, but people are also beautiful. So, you know, it's about learning and understanding the differences and tapping into that. And that's why me sharing my story is like in the hopes to help you uncover all of that, because it's not a easy thing to work through, particularly like domestic violence. And, you know, I got diagnosed with PTSD and ADHD later in life. And it wasn't like until I was learning about that I actually realized like, oh, you know, I had the belief that every night when I'd go to sleep, I'd be raped and killed. And I thought that was a normal fear that everyone had, and I got a rude shock that that is not a normal fear that everyone has. So, that was something that I had to work through, and that was like pretty confronting for me. There was one year where I couldn't sleep, and there were like a few things going on, but I know that the PTSD was the main factor of that because some stuff happened to me that left me with that belief, right? And I'm not going to go into the details because you don't need to know the details, and I want to trigger people, like I've said before. But yes, I'm sure that your brain can imagine some scenarios as to why someone would have that. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, like it cost me myself and my sanity, as a young girl, to have all of that happen to her at such a young age. It was stripped me of everything. And, then I was 18 and I was trying to just face my life in the world after going through some stuff that, is probably going to be on a screenplay one day because it's just ridiculous. Some of the things that have happened to me and some of the things I've been involved in are just, I can't even comprehend it sometimes because it was so normal for me, but it was in no way, shape or form normal. So, and I don't know how to explain that without, further going into stuff, but I was just this 17-year-old girl just high on ice building this empire. And I mean, like, I felt like I was building this empire. I had money. I was staying in suave hotels and, it was just, I was connected with these people, dangerous people, like there were guns. There was all this stuff happening. It was just ridiculous. And, high-speed cop chases, deals, just ridiculous. But it broke me. It really did. And, everything that I've done now and every kind of thing that I'm working towards is from a place of knowing all of that and channeling it to see a different outcome because I don't want other people to have to go through that. And if I can share the lessons that I've learned from that to help other people stay clear, that's exactly what I've been put on this earth to do, I feel. So what actually turned it around? Because it wasn't a single dramatic moment and, there were many, many moments, but I kind of made a little pact with myself when I was 18. And I think it was on my birthday when I had all the people that I love who I hurt the most, mind you, around for dinner. And I made a little pact for myself. I was like, this isn't going to be where my story is. This is going to be such a minor part of my story that, when I go on to achieve the level of success I'm aiming for and impact for other people, this will just be one of those little moments like, oh yeah, and there was that, but look at this, and that's what I've learned about like building empires and building businesses and going into being an entrepreneur and being redirected into this life has just completely transformed how I see things and how I view myself. I've really taken on the identity of someone who is audacious in business, who knows what she's working towards, is building an empire. And, I'm creating a revolution in the world because we need more audacity. That's a fact. That's my fact. We need more audacity. We have people who are sitting on billion-dollar ideas and things that could help the world that aren't doing anything with it. And, I want to encourage people to go out and start business and, make it for yourself because there's nothing more exciting than the personal journey of becoming an entrepreneur and the level of personal development you have to go through to work through that and get the success and get all the hardship and get all the lessons. Like, it's ridiculous and it's so much fun. And, if I've been to rock bottom and now I can turn around and look at where I'm working towards getting to, if I can do it, so can you. That's my whole thing because I don't want people to feel like hitting rock bottom then has to define their story. Like, sure, it's going to hold you back in some things. Like, naturally it will, but it doesn't have to. And I want to change also, other people's views on things because a lot of people, if they met me now, they would never think that I've been through all of that. But they would have judged me for going through all of that if they didn't meet me now. Do you know what I mean? So because of that, I want to normalize it and I'm talking about it and, helping people find their audacity because it's just a part in your story. It doesn't define everything. And everything can change, and you go through these pivotal moments where everything does change. And then you have an internal shift of, okay, this is where I've been. This is what's happened. This is my reality, my current reality. This is what I'm choosing to do with it. This is where I'm choosing to go. And when you tap into that moment of change and embrace that, everything else unlocks and just unravels, and your path will get clearer. Things will show up, the right lessons will happen. And if you've been going down a rabbit hole in the wrong direction, trust that the world will pull you up when it needs to, because everything is a lesson. And when you take your mindset and apply it that everything is a lesson, is when everything changes for you. And I've gone through so many pivotal moments in my life that have shaped that for me. But becoming an entrepreneur and finding the audacity to go after what I want and help other people go after what I want has been one of the most profound things for me. And it's been the most rewarding and exciting things that I've done. And I've done some pretty cool stuff, So doing this podcast, doing these videos, doing the coaching, like, I love it. It's the thing that lights me up, and I want to help more people find that feeling that I've had, So why Audacity became the whole platform? Because it's a word that for me reflects the internal feeling you need to have to just be able to kind of tell everyone to just get lost. I'm going to do it anyway. Don't care. It's almost like there's a bit of swag. There's a bit of swag, a bit of sass. I'm kind of like, don't really care what you think. It's being bold. It's being, courageous and literally not caring. It's almost like you're giving people around you like a double fingers, and it's just like, don't care what you have to say, what you want from me. I'm not going to fit into a box for you. I'm going to live loud, live authentically, live audaciously as the version of me, and own everything that I've been through, talk about it. And, no one can try and put my past back on me in a judgy way, because I'll tell you about it. I'll be honest. It doesn't bother me. And, you can't use something against someone if they can own it. So, and having audacity has just been the thing that has felt it. I feel it in my bones when I talk about it. It is about having audacity, and it's like, let's go. Let's do it. Fucking send it. Just get into it. Get and sink your teeth into something and hold on for the ride, because when you actually find the thing that you're meant to be here for and what you're working towards, you become unstoppable, and my whole brand and everything is built around that, because it is the one word that encapsulates the internal feeling that I've been able to find in myself. And I want to help other people find it. And that's why my coaching program is called the Audacity Shift, because it's exactly what we do. We uncover everyone's audacity, and I love it. If you had told me that I would be running a business where I'm doing that and helping people find their audacity, I would have if you told me that 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, no. But it's the mechanical mind and like the feeling, and that's everything it's been built around. Because I didn't want to build a brand around a nice, fluffy idea. I wanted to build it around something that hits you hard and unapologetically hard, right in the face. And that's why audacity comes into it, because it is just being double fingers to the face, guys. Like, screw you. Who cares what you have to say? I don't. I'm going to do it anyway. And that is why I've chose audacity. And it's just resonated with me. I've had so many things come up with it, and I just love it. And it's, we're changing the world with it. We're creating a movement in the world. And if you're listening to this, obviously you are a part of that revolution as well, because I know that you've got audacity in you. And so what does it mean for you watching this? And why does my story matter? Because it's not even about me, right? It's about what's possible from wherever you're starting. And for me, sharing my story and sharing my journey just means that I get to show you that you can start from the lowest point, even a little bit lower than the lowest point. You can start from there and build, like, the sky is your limit. The sky is your limit, because, you know, you might be starting your journey later in life, going into being an entrepreneur or going to take a risk and build something. You might be starting just when you're 15, like, you know, or any age in between. You might have gone through divorce. You might have just broken up with someone. You might have lost someone you love, lost your family. You don't know what's happened with people, and, you know, we don't know where you're at in your journey, but I want you to know that no matter where you are, you can start, and you just have to have the audacity to take a bet on yourself and lean into it, you know, because I know that within you, you have the audacity to go after what you want in life, because this doesn't resonate with people who don't have it. I know that because it's all I talk about day in, day out, literally day in, day out. So I want you to know, like, wherever you're standing right now in your journey, the same principle applies as it did for me, for you. Audacity first and then evidence later, because your evidence of who you are and who you're becoming and what you can achieve, that stuff comes from having audacity. You just need to dive into it and start making some moves and doing some things. And then the evidence shows up and it's, hey, look who's being audacious. Look who is doing all of the stuff, because you don't need to feel ready, and you won't ever feel ready. That's a false thing. You just need to decide that you're going to go after something and then lean in as far as you can and see just how far your audacity can take you. If this story resonated with you and you're ready to do your own version of this rebuild properly with support, that's exactly what the Audacity Shift is for. I have discovery calls. I've got free material. Go have a look in the show description. I want to hear from you. And, you know, touch base. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know what you've had the audacity to start doing from listening to my podcast, from these episodes, from everything that I'm sharing. And if you got something from my journey or you got further questions you want me to answer, like, send them in. I'm here for it. But I want you to be having audacity with everything that you do in life, because you deserve it.